Gil Bowman.
Terry Bowman. I was in the Navy from 68 to 72. I was an E5, bosun mate, second class. Vietnam War was going on as either. I thought, well, I'm going to serve. I wanted to serve, and so I joined the Navy and thought I'd stay out of it, but they had us over there. I spent 3 cruises over in Nam. We ran the rivers, we was behind enemy lines picking up the pilots, and we got rocketed one night. I mean, it was just, I don't know, it was just crazy. I went in 68, went down, told them I want to go a month or 2 after my birthday, November the 3rd. I was turning 18. Okay, to sign the papers, and here come my order, November the 5th, I shipped in. I'm gonna go in the service and put 20 in, retire, be young, 37. And first morning they come in and went to kicking the racks and stuff over. I said, well, I got 1,460 days left. I started me a short timer's calendar. I'm getting out of here. My tour of duty, I spent 2.5 years at sea. I made 3 Westpacks. 2.5 years at sea on a 4-year enlistment. I come back, our first ship, they decommissioned it. They put me on a ship going right back over. USS Whetstone, LSD-27, it was a flat bottom boat. We took the Mike boats in, put the Marines on the shore. And the second ship was a LPH, kind of a platform for helicopters. And I spent the last 2 years there. Yeah, our first cruise on that LSD, it did about 8-9 knots is all it did. And we left the States, it was 31 days before we pulled into Da Nang Harbor, We did pick up Apollo 13. We come back to Hawaii, and they sent us out to pick up the Apollo. And had a Russian trawler following us the whole time, We couldn't trying to outrun him and stuff. But then when they come down, one of the parachutes didn't quite open on the Apollo. And the Russian trawler wanted to know if they needed help picking them up. But we did pick up Apollo 13. But after she had graduated from high school, I come in from the service, and then we got married. And the first time they ever let us fly our wives from the state to Hawaii, and going to let our wives ride back on the ship with us, So she went over there and got on the ship, and when we left, seas were just as calm, and all the women were seasick. It was a mess for a while. They was going to shoot the guns for them back there, and I said, take the camera back there, and I said, I was on the forward gun mount, and I could hear the commands and stuff, and I said, when it goes off, I said, take a picture. I said, that flame shoots out there 3 or 4 feet, They's all up there on the upper deck looking down at them, all the wives. They heard the command to fire. When that gun went off, them women broke and ran. I said, did you get the picture? And she said, no. Yeah, shipped me back. 3 days later, I was here on the street, I'd wake up at night. Where am I? I'm supposed to be on watch, It's still fresh in my mind, But I can't remember your name in 30 minutes, But everything that happened then is still right there,
So I served in the Army from 1995 to 1999. I just wanted to do a little something before I got tied up into farming. I wanted to get out of town, and so I went down to join the Marine Corps and got talked out of that. Or recruiter wasn't quite smart enough to get me on the hook. Had no intent of joining the Army, and I was leaving, and the Army recruiter was kind of locking his door. And he says, did you join? I said, I'm thinking about it, had a handful of papers. And he says, well, I'm going to lunch. He says, why don't you let Uncle Sam buy you lunch? And I said, yeah, okay, 21 years old. Yeah, that'd be good. Let's go eat lunch. So time we come back, he had me signing up in the Army. I went in there with the full intent of just joining up for 2 years too, and it got me for 4 years. And afterwards, I went home. That's when I told Blanca, I says, well, I joined the Army. She said, you did what? And I said, I told you I was going down there to join. I went to join the Marines, but I said, I joined the Army. She says, that's when we either got to break it off, or she said, we either got to get married or break it off. It was get married. That was the one she was leaning towards. So, well, let's get married. So that's when, and we planned a wedding after that too. So I was stationed at Fort Bragg. I spent my entire 4 years there. Did a little stuff down in New Orleans and up in Fort Drum, little training, but I never left stateside. I was a paratrooper in the Army during that time. A lot of late night jumps, and I think I got out of there, I had 87 jumps and jumped out of most of the aircrafts they had. So mostly C-130s, yeah. Jumped out of helicopters, jumped out of a Twin Otter a few times, C-141s, those was the jet style planes. They couldn't quite slow down as much as a C-130, so it was a little rougher getting out of those. But well, plane, we'd fly map of the earth for an hour, you know, and like just flying you in somewhere, simulation, and then we'd make our jumps. Usually it was your full gear. You'd have your without your weapon, all that stuff, and then we called them old dark 30. It'd usually be somewhere 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So you'd jump into pitch black and just doing training, you know, and so those were most of the jumps. I got put on a test directory for a while, and we jumped out of helicopters. Those were daytime jumps without any gear, so that was 3 months of it was pretty fun on Fridays, just jumping those. And so a helicopter, you're just hanging on the side. It was a lot of fun. That's not something that we just got to do. That was because you were special for for a little bit there, you know. So and so it was pretty fun doing that. But yeah, the night jumps weren't all that fun.
Yeah.
We lost one guy. So you had this. They had all the equipment in the plane. They gave us a green light, but we always went through the thing. So you had somebody out the door, you know, come back. We're all standing chalk 1 or whatever chalk you're on. And 10 minutes. And so we'd all holler 10 minutes and 5 minutes and 1 minute and then 10 seconds and we're going to go, you know. And so then go and green light would come on. So anyways, I had a sergeant one time and he's looking out the door trying to find our mark, you know, and we're about 30 miles out of our drop zone or so, maybe a little less, but you get sucked out of the plane in the dark, you know, and there's a lot of water, power lines. I mean, you know, all those dangers, you know, and we're worried about our sergeant, and but he wound up dropping into somebody's backyard, knocked on the door, had to call, and we had to send a Humvee up to pick him up. But yeah, it was kind of funny. We got jumped with the Air Force CCT team, and that's kind of their elite team. But we talked them into lowering the tailgate on an airplane, and that was pretty exciting jump. I got to do that a few times, but just the whole back end would lower down, and then we would go off at the back of that, and it was pretty exciting. It was interesting. That was probably the more exciting jumps that I got to do, but. So yeah, I have a parachute, I call it paramotoring. So I got basically a lawnmower motor you strap on your back and pop your parachute up and fly into the wild blue yonder. I'm always looking for something exciting to do. I wish I would have had this 20 years ago. It would have been, I think it through too much now, let's put it that way. I probably would have joined the Air Force in hindsight. And so my boy's looking, he's talking about maybe the service, and that's kind of where I'm leaning him if he's going to do it. I say, hey, you might be better off getting in the Air Force. So I might have done that if I was probably to redo it all. But not, I really wouldn't change much. I had a good time looking back.
One uncle was in the Navy, and then I had another uncle and aunt that was in the Army. One was the Corps Army. My dad was in the Army, but I don't know. I wanted to see some of the world too, you know, instead of just going over Nam. And I did. We got to New Zealand. I seen a lot of that Far East country, and that's what I more or less went in for, but I knew I was going to be drafted, so I knew you had to go. I got out in September. They let me out for early to go to school in '72, and that's when Saigon fell. And I said, if they try to call me back, I'm going to Canada.
And we did. I got a nephew. He was going to join the. I don't know. I think he was he was looking at the Navy for a little bit, and I told him, I said, "Man, you better join the Air Force," And so he wound up joining the Air Force. He's been in for 6 years, 7 years now.
He's in Germany right now.
I think he's going to wind up making a career out of it. So.
Yeah. It does change you. Makes you more mature, more responsible. Come back and you feel like you're part of this country, when you served. You feel like you've done your part.